Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you're at the back and you would like to come to the front, you are more than welcome. And then the latecomers can get the seats at the back as they arrive. Now, my name is Josh Brooks. I'm the event director for Packaging Innovations and MPAC. I've said this several times today, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. I hope you have had, are having, and will continue to have for the next couple of hours a really productive day, and that you will have made new connections, met new people, discovered new innovations, and met new production partners and whatever else you might have been hoping to do today. Now, clearly, events sometimes feel like they might be under pressure. We're in a world of digitalization and AI and so on. And I think what we find and what we feel, we would believe this strongly, of course, as event organisers, but I think it's true, is that the more of that happens, the more people actually just want to meet. They want to get in one room, discuss, press the flesh, smile, give each other a kiss, whatever it might be, and enjoy getting together and working stuff out and moving on. That's what this is all about. I mentioned AI, of course, because it's the topic of our next discussion with this stellar panel. I'm a nobody. Look at these people. They're somebodies. And it's really, thank you all for doing this. And the biggest somebody of them all is going to be chairing this, and it is, of course, Martin Kirsch, that I'm delighted to hand over to now. So enjoy the show, enjoy the debate, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Well, what a great introduction, Josh, and thank you very much. We have known each other a hell of a long time. It's fantastic. Look, it's Wednesday. It's the first day of the show and time for the most important date in the debate in the packaging year. This is it. You're here. People will talk about this for years afterwards. You are part of packaging history. No big thing for the panel then, and they are an amazing panel. Look, the motion today is provocative, right? Deliberately so. AI, and by that we mean artificial intelligence as opposed to what they do with cattle, will do far more to improve packaging waste management than the government's packaging reforms. Now, there is no right answer at this stage anyway, and you're more than welcome to change your mind by the end, because I'm going to do a quick poll in a minute. So that's the idea, to see if you change your mind. We're going to empty your heads, okay? It's not a debate about whether AI is clever or whether policy matters. It's about what actually drives change at scale. So, a quick vote before we start. And I'm just curious to know where we all are in this room, okay? I'm not going to hold you to it. And as I say, it's about, just seeing what shifts, whether your views shift because of the persuasiveness of these great apostles. Okay. So, we've got four choices. I will say them once. We have a choice, and the question is, what do you think will do more to improve packaging waste outcomes? Let's see how it goes. We've got four choices. Don't put your hands up yet. AI and digital technology. B, government policy and reform. C, a combination of both. Or D, you're not sure yet. So hands up, what do you think will do more to improve packaging waste outcomes? AI and digital technology. Who thinks that? Come on, let's hear it. Okay, I'm not going to count, let's get a measure. Government policy and reform. How many here? How many would say a combination? We're in combination. That's interesting. So note that. We've got a combination. How many, and genuinely, there's no problem with this, not sure about it. good man, a few brave, that is interesting to know, and I think a lot probably are quite not sure about it. We're not locked into that, by the way. That's just to get a measure, if you like, a benchmark. I've asked the speakers to come with an open mind, and I ask you to come with an open mind. Okay? I really do ask you to go to do that. Let's face it, we've got two people on the stage who work together and they're on opposing sides. Why? Because they know the value of good debate. That's why they do it. You know, they've landed on opposite sides of the motion. So this is more than theatre, okay? And some of them on this panel have agreed to leave their comfort zones. They're going to argue against their normal position. Why? It's about debate. So treat it in that spirit. The job's not about winning arguments, it's to understand the world better. Let's have that as our sort of goal, if you like. But debates are great fun, and this one will be a great competition, but it's not going to be a blood sport. Okay, that's also important to remember. You're going to hear powerful arguments for and against the motion. Persuasive. These guys are going to convince you. They're going to move you. They're going to change your opinions. We have got 6 eloquent, influential, and very persuasive people. And if they were salespeople, they would absolutely demolish their targets. These people would be salespeople of the month after month after month. So empty your heads, 5 seconds, just clear your brains. Clear the crap out of your heads. Can you do that for me, please? Okay? You've landed from Krypton. You know nothing about packaging, reuse, refilling, all that stuff. Just form your view on this debate only on the strength of it. Now, we have someone, at least one person in the audience who is a journalist, correct? I don't know if there are any more. We are going to apply Chatham House rules to this. I promise that to the panel. Ditto tweeting. I mean, you can do send messages about this event, but please don't attribute any comments to any individuals. Is that an agreement that we all have? Please, thank you. That's important because that does help. Okay. So each team, classic school debate, they have a proposer, second third speaker, and they alternate between these. Strict timing, so we may cut them off mid-flow, and that reminds me, I must get my little clock here. There we go. And what was I going to say? Yeah, cut off mid-flow. A challenge by each team to the other. Then your questions, so store them up, and we'll get through as many as you can. And make them short, please. Short questions. Shorter the better. Then we have a summing up by each team, and then we vote. Right, the 4 team, in order: James Piper, Karen Grayley, and Matthew Stevenson. And against, George Atkinson, Robbie Staniforth, and Dan Crook. Big applause. Okay, so for the motion, James Piper is going to open. He doesn't need any introduction because you've just seen him give an introduction before, so you can have that. Okay, and he has spent years inside waste and resource management businesses, actually trying to make systems work rather than design them on some sort of PowerPoint. And so, again, great speaker. Karen Grayley is head of the consortium bidding to be the packaging EPR, producer responsibility organisation, which means he's currently living at the exact point, I guess, where policy ambition meets operation reality. And you know, if this were a stress test, you'd be holding the clipboard because you really know where it's at. And then Matthew will close for the team, and he's from Grey Parrot, which uses AI to look at waste streams in more detail than most of us look at it in our own lives. They really do interrogate it. He spends days watching what really goes through nerves. Bloody hell. Right, okay, against the motion, George Atkinson from Valpag. He's Director of Policy at Val Packard. He knows more about the inner workings of producer responsibility than is healthy for one individual on the planet. He lives in a world of thresholds, obligations, and unintended consequences, and he does understand data. Now, we also have second Robbie Staniforth. Again, he needs no introduction because you had that one before. So thank you, Robbie. So, again, he's one of those people who talks very fluently about AI, EPR, incentives, without making anyone wish they'd gone to a different session. And he's also, on his way here, multitasked in a BBC interview. Not bad, eh? That isn't bad. Dan Cook, very good, Director of Policy at the CIWN, which is the Chartered Institutes of Waste Management. You've got to say waste management. I remember getting the bollocking to get wastes. It's got an S. I did try that. You thought I had a list, but it is waste management. I got a bollocking for getting that wrong once. And he's in the position, he's got to make this all work on the ground. So he thinks about delivery, skills, funding, infrastructure. Some might think the less glamorous parts, but Dan finds it very glamorous. So, we're going to start, we're going to get into this now. What we're going to do now is we're going to get into the very first opening. We're going to have James Piper, who is going to open 4. You can stand, sit, do whatever you want. I'm going to start the clock. Right.
Can I just say how uncomfortable?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. 5 minutes starting now.
This is very uncomfortable considering I spent my whole career in policy, but here we go. AI is better for waste management than policy. And I would like to start with a bit of Monty Python, as I like to do often in talks. What have the government ever done for us? Yes, the roads and the aqueducts, but they're full of litter. Fly tipping and mismanaged waste are on the rise at a time of extreme government policy, either in or incoming. We've got the plastic packaging tax, extended producer responsibility, simpler recycling, digital waste tracking, DRS, to name but a few. And yet, on an almost daily basis, we hear about a fly tip or mismanaged waste. And that is because government policy leads the horse to water, but it does not make it drink. You can set up government policy in the background that tells people what to do, but if people aren't doing the right thing or don't want to do the right thing, government policy will never succeed. And it is not government policy, or necessarily even AI, that's going to drive better waste management, it's economics. We've got to make the economics of our waste better. We've got to make waste more valuable. And AI is the tool that will allow us to do that by sorting our waste better, by managing our waste better, by allowing consumers to have more mixed waste because the AI will sort it later. We can get a lot more material back through the system, and that material can be worth a lot more money. Sherborne Recycling opened a MRF in 2023. I went on their website yesterday. This is a £58 million state-of-the-art facility, and on their website they say 18 AI-controlled robotic arms and other technologies ensure materials are separated to industry-leading purity rates of up to 99%. The investment in technology by the 8 partner councils has meant that Sherborne is able to consistently produce high-quality outputs and engage solely in UK remanufacturing markets, sending no material overseas. Sherborne Recycling would have built that MRF whatever the government policy was, because the economics make sense. If you take waste from consumers in the councils and you sort it effectively, you can get things like 99% purity and you can keep recycling domestic. None of that is driven by those government policies, it's driven by the fact that it just makes sense to invest in that. The better we sort and process our waste, the more valuable it is. Now, I will admit, government policies do a few things well. They force consumers to have a wider variety of bins, which we know is a very hot topic. EPR sends monies from brands to councils. DRS will forever annoy me, and my views on this are very public. What they do not do is get the public doing the right thing. You look at the comments on new food waste bins coming in weekly, and people say, I'm going to keep my birdseed in it. It does not cause people to put food waste in their new food waste bins. Facebook comments made me laugh, but honestly, we're doing it on the podcast tomorrow with Simply Recycling, just advertising that again because it is hilarious what people say they're going to do with their food waste bins other than put food waste in it. And these policies just don't drive better waste management. They facilitate changes and hope that people come on the journey, hope that people are going to engage with them, which we just know, yes, all of us who are really interested in recycling and doing the right thing, we are definitely going to do the right thing. The vast majority will not, and so the better thing is for councils to invest in technologies that makes it easy for the consumer and makes our recycling better. Now what economic does do is drive innovation, and AI will allow brands to have data that they've never had before. Suddenly Coca-Cola can find out if a label or a message or a colour or something on their bottles or cans is a bad example because of DRS, but imagine DRS doesn't exist. They're going to find out if that increases recycling rates. And they can put that back into their systems. They can go, having recycled this big meant I got loads back, and having it this big meant I didn't. And AI allows brands to capture that data to work out live how much recycling is happening. Sorry? Oh, perfect, I'm nearly finished. It will mean co-mingled collections can be effectively sorted, reducing the burden to the consumer. So the question today, AI will do far more to improve packaging waste management than the government's packaging reforms. I completely agree.
That's it. Thank you very much. You want a good thing? You've got 30 seconds if you want it. It's not compulsory, right?
Listen to the podcast.
Yeah, listen to the podcast. Give the bloke a break. Right. Okay, now, George Atkinson, please come. Tell us why you are opposed to the motion. 5 minutes, beginning now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying this late in the day, first and foremost. Myself, Robbie and Dan are going to take you through why you should firmly believe in the set of regulations being pursued across the 4 nations of the UK at present. There's no doubt that AI is going to have its place in our modern, hopefully tech-rich, resource-secure economy in the decades to come. That said, it will not have the transformational impact in the short term that these reforms will have on every single point in the value chain as well as in our lives as citizens. We're going to see the reforms, be it modulation, causing producers to think twice about what is in their packaging and understand what's in their packaging. We're going to have deposit return schemes, like them or not, incentivizing consumers to pause before they dispose of packaging and hopefully return them for recycling. We have cost transfer, of course, that's very important at present, that's going to ensure that local waste management services are funded effectively and hopefully long term they become a little bit more efficient along the way. We've got consistency of collections as well, which instills confidence within the system. And so we've got a number of reforms pulling a number of levers within our minds as citizens, within the choices that businesses are making, including local authorities and the choices they make too. And as a result, the package of reforms being pursued is truly comprehensive and truly transformational. And also, they're just the realities of here and now. We're in Solihull today, but I live just up the road in Birmingham. There's a recycling rate of 23% in Birmingham at the moment, and in 2024, 30% of the recycling that was done in Birmingham was actually unusable in respect of being recycled. There are clear deficiencies in that city at present that need to be addressed, and I, and hopefully Robbie and Dan, will, across this debate, help convince you that these reforms truly have the capacity to make those changes, to hit government targets, and hopefully transform the way in which we deal and view packaging in our daily lives. These reforms build confidence for investors, for citizens, for businesses too, and they set the platform upon which innovation, including AI, can come in. But investment is inherently risky without a firm footing upon which those business decisions can be taken. And I'll finish with a bit of an analogy. If you're a smoker, obviously you would like to have the best possible care if you had any issues with your health related to those activities you take. The government understands that, and they're naturally putting lots of effort into dealing with illness. However, there is a very, very tangible argument to be made in putting money towards public health to incentivize, or I should say, encourage choices that might put a strain on finances long term. Now, go with me here. I think the reforms have the ability to mean that AI will not need to help us sort out the problem of waste in the UK. I think that AI has a place, and hopefully we'll be able to tell you why you should firmly believe the reforms will make a bigger impact.
You could have another minute if you wanted.
I'm fine, let's get into the debate.
Right, okie dokie. Excellent, thank you. Wow, right. Now we have Karen, who is going to provide us up to 3 minutes to provide as a seconder to James on the motion.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much, James, and thank you very much, George, as well. I think, first of all, just to say, AI doesn't replace reform, it outpaces it. So I think actually the analogy that George has just used there around health and the services that we would all expect for if you're unfortunately not well, you would expect those to be at pace, not necessarily have to wait years for something to come into force so that you could be within a queue or where you are within a queue. So I think we definitely say they need each other, but what we do need is pace. I think that's one of the things that AI can bring. James already talked around the importance of performance in kind of real time. That again is what AI can bring. So when we think around sortation and contamination levels, we talk about obviously the economics and the value of material. Again, that's what AI can deliver. And I think whether we like DRS or not, I think someone noted I was going to be here today and sent me a stat actually, so I can't take the credit for it and I won't, but they did say to me around DRS, I think it's estimated that there's going to be 1,000 units sorted per second, 24/7 every day. So, again, how would we do that without AI? So again, I think it's just the power, the speed, the pace, the reporting, the measurement, not just assumptions, that AI can bring, and then delivery of that feedback. So again, thinking about circularity actually, how then we can utilise that data to best effect. So I think the other thing to say is that you've probably waste systems, bringing it back to the debate, they don't wait for perfect policy, sadly, but they can be improved, when we've got operators actually seeing real time in the day as to, what needs to happen, so they can see and they can act. I think also to say, reforms, are built on assumptions and reporting, whereas AI shows us actually what's happening in the bins, on the lines and at scale. So it's not just one, whether it be Solihull today, but all 388 local authorities. I think the other pieces we've heard a lot about today is around behavioural change. So I think it was Alison that said earlier today, is it kind of recycling or recycled? They're words that we use a lot within the producer environment. But again, that behavioural change is the key to the end. So
30 seconds.
Thank you. We can do all that we can to make sure that it is recyclable. We can make sure that there's infrastructure there to get it recycled. But ultimately, we need behavioural change to make sure it goes to the right place. Thank you.
Thank you. Look at that. Time to spare. What about that? We're now going to have Robbie, who is going to tear James's argument to shreds.
Well,
starting now.
Here's the notes that I've made in the last 13 minutes of listening so far. James likes his Monty Python quotes. I'm here to tell you, James is not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. Because we all know that he believes that policy is the much bigger game changer than AI. And the reason for that is because he, like me, speaks to clients out there, people involved in packaging. I can see one or two of those faces around there. And those people aren't talking about the transformative power of AI, like many boardrooms around the UK might be. They're talking about the recyclability assessment methodology. And that means, how do they codify their packaging, red, amber or green, to fit within the system that the government has defined and avoid paying more than they necessarily need to on EPR. That's what the game changer is. That's what the people making the packaging decisions are talking about, not how AI will change it. George also sort of talks a little bit about how AI is actually just cleaning up the problem we've got, not signposting a bright new future. And that is exactly what government policy is doing where AI isn't. AI is being deployed on the current scenario and saying, we've got all this problematic packaging, it's all mixed, it's a real complicated thing, let's just let technologies and computers take care of this problem that we've created. Policy is actually going upstream to try and solve the problem of what gets placed onto the market so that AI will have its place, but it isn't expected to do all of the heavy lifting that policy will. Without policy, again, as James didn't talk about, but George did, is required for the AI investment. So as we talked about, they do come hand in hand, and many of you agreed that it was both. But I think if you have to fall on one side of the argument or the other, could AI do all the things we need it to without policy? No. Could policy do it without AI? Yes, it actually could. And we've got 2 proof points, if I've got time, Martin.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, 2 proof points. The first one is, what was it that made Wales number 3 in the world in terms of collections of recycling? It was the policy that they introduced. Number 2 is, what is going to be the game changer for recycling flexible plastics? No, it wasn't my flexible plastic fund that was run on a voluntary basis. It's the government policy that means you'll get it collected from your homes by 2027. Thank you.
Stop. Just in time. Look at that. Well done. 2 seconds to spare. Very good. Now we have got Matthew, who will provide the closing argument. 40.
Hey, so I want to firstly thank you for making all of my arguments for me. So James opened the point by saying that one of the key drivers to making this sector work is the economics behind it. And ultimately, that's where AI really comes in. Now, to discuss the policy giants, firstly, you mentioned there around how it's signposting where we need to go. Exactly how are we making those decisions? Well, we're making those decisions based on manual sampling in these sites, which is a hazardous but also very expensive process. It brings a lot of extra costs into that industry. So we talk about how different AI systems can make things more efficient. One way that they could make it more efficient is feeding in the information that would be required for such a thing. How are we going to understand whether policies are actually put in place are the right ones? We need to understand it, again, more manual sampling. And to close, I love your point about smoking tax. I'm a smoker myself. And ultimately, how we introduce that tax is to make decisions in the right way. Now, ultimately, how do we force that? We force that smoking decision through price. So, if what we're going to go down is a route of introducing policy that's going to add more cost into the system, what we're actually doing is we're incentivizing the wrong behavior, because we're making our entire ecosystem of recycling more expensive. I could speak for a long time about the different benefits of AI and how we can introduce more efficiencies within different sorting processes. But ultimately, without this data, we can't make the decisions we need, and we can't make it cost efficiently. And that ultimately is the reason why AI wins in this debate. Because AI can make a change by itself, but policy, you need this data. And without the data from AI, all you're doing is adding extra cost into that process. And ultimately, AI will make the right thing the profitable thing. And that is something that I believe will make the difference in the sector.
Thank you. Gosh, right, that is interesting. You came in under 2 minutes, so there is a few seconds if there's anything you want to add or anything, Steve.
I could add a lot. So, AI.
Don't let me stop you.
What do we need to do? We need to build more flexible systems. What changes all the time? Consumer behaviour. Yes, policy can definitely influence that. but how do we actually change machines on the fly to make sure we can deal with the different seasons? That is something that only AI can do. Policy is a great big instrument that has to be implemented over a long time. It's not a fast, immediate change that can happen within a system at any time based on any different change. If a big football game goes off and then you get loads more aluminium in the stream, that is something a large tool like policy can't interact with the flexibility of the systems and the way flows we see.
Perfect. Stopping you there. Lovely. Thank you. And to close for the against side, we have Dan Cook. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. I'd like to firstly thank the AI team for some interesting but largely marginal arguments that they put forward. Let's consider what has driven packaging and indeed all materials recycling and waste management to date. The impressive range of services that our sector delivers, the brilliant people, the skills, the standards, the infrastructure, the technology and the systems that make up the modern recycling, resources and waste sector. The sector has transformed itself over the last 30 years. We're in the top 3 in terms of performance when it comes to carbon reduction, for example. And that's been driven by a move away from landfill, driven by an economic instrument, driven by policy, from the rudimentary hump and dump industry that we were 30 years ago to today's sophisticated recycling and recovery-led infrastructure and services. What's driven all that? Policy. Where was AI 30 years ago? Nowhere. From simple and single recycling figures, recycling rates that we had, to 65% plus in some materials in UK countries. An average of 45% household waste recycling, 60% overall. We've come from a standing start to some impressive stuff delivered by policy. All driven by policy where AI was largely peripheral. Let's have a look at a few of the AI expectations, this big bubble of expectation that we've been told about. Is it a bubble or is it a Tower of Babel? The role of AI, I had to Google before I came, the role of AI in packaging innovation and design. Yes, it can do some good stuff around sustainable materials development, design and prototypes, predictive maintenance, quality control, smart and intelligent packaging, supply chain logistics efficiency. Some of its impacts that Google boasts about, sustainable goals, a drinks company reduced material by 18%. Waste reduction, Amazon optimised its box sizes by 24%. Quality and safety saw a 40% reduction in packaging quality in a pharma company. But they're all still based on sell, on selling the dream of what more stuff can deliver us, however
30 seconds now.
it's packaged. Only policy will drive waste reduction, reuse, recycling, material substitution, the circular economy. Policy will be the engine of the circular economy. In our organisation, we're looking at AI. We like to fiddle with it at the moment, imagine what it might do and how it's going to transform all of our futures. But our principle is human first and human last. AI, a squeeze bit in the middle.
The word stop, S-T-O-P, has a particular meaning in life. You're aware of it, you can explain it. Right, we have got to reset that. I would now like the proposers to issue a challenge to the opposers. Any question you want, I don't know which of you is going to take that lead. And then they have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay.
Someone, please.
Thank you, Dan, for bringing up Amazon, because that was economics that you were describing. But anyway, we'll ignore that. So the question I want to ask is, it's interesting you brought up Birmingham, George, because Birmingham did have a recycling rate of 23%, and it's down in 13% because of strikes. And they are delaying the introduction of policy. They are delaying the introduction of food waste collections till June. They are delaying the introduction of simpler recycling because of those strikes. There are 31 councils not introducing food waste. in line with simpler recycling. So my question to the policy group is, what will happen to those councils that don't meet the government policies? And I put it to you that government policies do not have teeth.
And who is Dan is going to do it? Dan, 2 minutes.
Well, I'd like to take that on. What's going to happen to them? They will feel peer pressure, they will feel government pressure, and eventually there will be penalties against them that will ensure that they do introduce them. You talked about food waste systems and collections being unpopular. That's absolute nonsense. There may be a minority of people that like to complain about any change in service, but time and time again, new, convenient recycling services, better ways of collecting materials for recycling is embraced by the majority of people. Time and time again, surveys show that people think recycling is the one positive environmental action that they can take in their lives, and there are huge levels of continued support for it. So the policy will implement these things. The majority of the public, despite the Daily Mail and the odd moaner from the team opposite us, the majority of the public will embrace it, will take part in good, convenient systems, and that will drive greater performance in recycling, which has cost benefits to the local authorities, it has economic and environmental benefits, and ultimately carbon reduction benefits, all driven by policy. AI will fiddle about on the margin.
Thank you. You can add another comment for 30 seconds if you want. Anybody in the team? Robbie, anyone? You're cool. You're cool, right? Very articulate. There you go. I take the compliment. Right, now you must, one of the opposers is going to really issue a challenge now to the proposers.
It's not about Monty Python, is it?
No, definitely not. That's before my time.
George, thank you.
I will raise two things, a bit tongue-in-cheek, Matthew, because I'm aware of who your employer is. I mentioned earlier AI gives a society potentially an excuse to say AI will sort it out. That creates a massive potential single point of failure within the waste management infrastructure if there is nothing else to support it. If there is a number of MRFs with these AI sorters within them, and there's a battery fire, for example, and we're reliant on that AI system to sort all of this waste, and that sorting doesn't get happened, or at least not easily. Is that a single point of failure we can live with in our societies long term?
And to answer,
I question if that is the source of the break here. Ultimately, AI is here to enable the teams that work in these sectors. It's not there to replace every single person. It's there to optimise the processes that are there. You mentioned battery fires. Obviously, detection of these things can happen much faster without a human being actually being in the situation of the danger. But ultimately, I think you mentioned human, AI, human. We're not debating here whether humans are better than AI. We're debating whether policy is a better instrument to enact change than AI. And the reality is that AI sees every moment, every action that's going through that facility, and it can take action to then dynamically control processes to improve what we're seeing. And that's not something that policy can do. So I agree with you that that would be a fear, but I don't think that's what's happening, because AI is ultimately there to enable the great workforce that is there.
Karen, James, you've got a couple of seconds if you
Yeah,
want to pitch
thank
in.
you.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, I think, policy does bring in the incentives, but AI actually turns that into action. So if we think about whether it be a fire, whether it be about contamination levels and stripping out, AI will do that for us, and it'll do it a lot quicker and a lot faster than without.
Perfect. Okay. Right. Now it is the turn of you, the audience. I'd like some nice, brief, sharp questions. And have a good go at it as well. Do challenge them. Oh right, thank you. Yes, sorry about me. Right, thank you. Right, but do challenge them. So, I've got a question from the man with the...
Adrian Simmons. Isn't AI a little bit pie in the sky if we haven't got the amount of data centres that we're going to need and the impact it's going to have on infrastructure? is going to be enormous, especially in these difficult times when cyber attacks are rife, as we've seen in the construction industry with buildings being hijacked because of digital twins. What's the plan we're going to have around that?
To deal with that. Okay, so that's a very specific question about the technology. Who would like to?
Probably it's me.
I think it's Matthew, yeah.
We grab the
Oh,
mic.
we need to. We need to back you. You're going to have to be very dexterous here.
You're absolutely right. The energy resource is an absolutely critical question around AI. This is something that we're going to have to come to terms with, but ultimately this is something that can be overcome with renewable energy. Ultimately the people and our waste is not renewable. We need a circular economy, and renewable energy will play the biggest part in that.
Right. Does anybody from this team want to just comment on
No,
that?
just to say I'm worried too.
You're worried too. You're worried. He's
And it
worried.
underlines why you should
Is it
support
making you awake
policies in
at
this
night?
debate.
Are you kept awake at night with it?
Absolutely.
You are, right, okay. Now, in the interest of balance, please, let's direct the next question if anybody's got one for the opposition team. There's a gentleman at the back I can see.
Oh, I've got one, but it's for the
Oh, you've got the
boys.
mic. It's for which one? Catherine?
Charity.
Could I just take just to balance it? Do you mind? And then we'll have one at the back. I'm nothing but a Democrat.
Hiya, I'm Navishka and I'm working for Suntory. You said right, Suntory.
Oh, Centauri, yeah.
So I'm a packaging technician. I see both sides. So I'm going to give an argument supporting both sides. So policy is really, really essential. So a really good example for that. For 2 years now, we are working on, I know everyone's love it as a customer, feathered caps. So that started as a policy,
Yeah.
which is really, really good initiative, because one of the top 5 ways ends up in oceans is bottle caps, of course.
And your question is?
The question, actually, the thing is that I'm saying it needs to be, you can't say either AI good or the policy good. It's interrelated. So policy actually needs to solve the problem, and also we can use AI. So like the cap design, we got the help of AI really well, which.
I'll let you off the hook if you give us one question.
Yeah.
Tell us who it's to.
So no, I was just saying.
The question, it's got to have the next sentence has got to have a question mark behind it.
But do you think I got a
That's
question?
better.
I got a question with the policy team. So do you think in the modern world, in the future, we can only rely on just policy?
I think
Good question.
it is a good question. I'm glad we got there. Of course, we said at the outset, it's going to be a combination. I think the debate is really which side do you lean, because both have a role, and you articulated that very well. The reality is, would AI have delivered a tethered cap in the UK? No, it would not. That's the reality of why policy is so fundamentally important. And this isn't even a UK policy, by the way. This is a European Union policy that's affected the rest of the world, and particularly the UK. And it is a great example to show about how ultimately it is policy that is the most fundamental.
If I may, Martin, I'll be very quick.
Very then.
For those that want it, AI can show people where the carrot is. For everyone else, perhaps those not incentivized, policy's the stick that you do need in certain circumstances to level the playing field. So a mixture of both, I think, is required.
Would you like to answer the man from Centauri?
Just helpful to have Suntory, because as far as I'm aware, label size is not in the RAM anymore, but Suntory have changed the size of their label. Milk bottle companies reduce colour from milk lids. It's not in the policy because the economics make it possible. You go, I want more recycled content, I want things to be recycled. Don't tell me it's in the RAM now, because I'm sure it's
The reason, and James has really helped me articulate my argument, that was the threat of policy, not even policy itself. that made them change the label.
So we don't need policy, we just need the threat.
But you do need
The incentive
you need
drove
the
the
threat
action.
to eventually
The
come
incentive
through.
drove the action. Yeah. Like with black plastics, NIR detection, you know, it drove the action.
Thank you. God, you know what? It took a long time to get there, but the question worked. Right, Catherine.
So I appreciate that the question in here is how do we improve packaging waste management, not improve packaging or reduce packaging waste. But my question is, we know for a large amount of products, reuse is the answer to reducing packaging and packaging waste. How will AI help companies collectively move to more reusable packaging?
How will AI?
I don't mind giving it a go. Thanks, Catherine, for that one. I think actually AI is kind of reuse's best friend, because it's going to enable us to know where the packaging is, where it's been, how long it's been there, and where it's going to, and also then enable us to be able to make sure that we utilise it in the right way. So actually upcycle along the down cycle if it's not had any contaminants. So I think AI is reuse's best friend.
I think policy is reuse's best friend. You only pay on the first trip for reusable packaging. Already companies are seeing that as a possible opportunity to avoid their EPR waste management fees, because it doesn't end up in the recycling system until many, many years later. So they only pay up front. So that's brilliant. There's going to be a call for evidence from DEFRA in the coming month or two. And that will hopefully tighten up so that we have even more policy to support.
Right, we have time for two very quick questions. Number one here. Thank you all, Louise.
Hi, very quick challenge stroke question to both sides. Team AI, how many of the environmental sustainability benefits of AI are going to be wiped out by the huge energy and water demands it's going to place on the globe? Team policy, how are you going to deal with the vagaries and challenges of populism and ideology and political change that could buffet your amazing policies year by year?
Two questions in one, so quick answer here, please. One of you. Nice and snappy.
So I covered a little bit around the renewable energy answer to that question. Ultimately, as these models improve, they do need less and less power. We can renew energy, but we cannot renew the waste that we throw away every day. So ultimately, that's really the core answer to this question. It's a transition of how we generate that power to increase the use of AI.
And question to the opposers.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a couple of points. Firstly, we've heard a lot about costs over there. Nobody has mentioned the high initial costs required for the investment in the software and hardware to introduce AI. We've just got a snippet at the moment, but when the big stuff comes that they're promising, this big bubble, nobody has mentioned the cost of introducing that, data quality, access, etc. In terms of populism, I go back to some of the original points that we made. Recycling is one of the most popular services. I was at the APSI, that's the Association for Public Service Excellence Conference last week on street cleansing. Their latest survey shows that waste and recycling services, some of the highest satisfaction rates among the population as of last week.
Right.
Also, the ongoing popularity of good waste recycling services, the stuff that's coming down the line, make it even more convenient. We will ride the waves of whatever political party, because human brains will weigh up the politics, the costs,
Thank you, Dan.
and the
That is
impact
great.
of policy.
Right, Alex is going to get the final question in. Alex, very quick.
So surely if AI is expensive, I think DEFRA is probably more expensive. So could we not just replace DEFRA with a hugely synthesized model that provides the best of all EPR systems and policy around the world to deliver optimized EPR schemes?
Do remember this man used to work for DEFRA. So just anything.
I won't
Very brief answer.
Currently, we won't hear a word said against them. They're up against it. They have dedicated teams of people developing good progressive policy. It's tested. A little bit of AI tests the modelling of it, but at the moment, they're always under fire. They're always up against it in DEFRA, but they have driven, and they will put out the circular economy growth plan that you will see in the coming months, which will set the policy framework for the next 10 years and beyond, which will drive policy that affects every one of us in this building.
And can the proposers answer the gamekeeper term poacher, please?
Okay, so how I would answer that is ultimately AI is a co-pilot to make decisions. You know, when you bring up the question around the funding within AI, ultimately the funding is there because AI, when it goes into these facilities, makes that company more money. Right?
I've enjoyed those questions from the audience. We're you're going to do your summing up. Your summing up. If you turn that to just a 3 minutes, that would be wonderful. So the person goes first on the summing up, and taking it away is...
Well, we didn't know we had another summing up, so we're going to ad hoc this one and share it out.
Standard debate.
How can we trust AI? Ian Ferguson, who many of you will know, left me a good line. He asked AI before he came here today whether oxo-degradable plastics were recycled. AI said no. He then asked whether oxo-biodegradable plastic was recyclable. AI said yes. It's the same bloody material. How can we trust AI to make the big decisions when it can't give us the detail that's required? Only human brains can design policy that's required to steer us through all this, to set the goals that we need for better packaging, recycling, higher rates of recycling, resource efficiency, and ultimately better waste management.
And we can't leave without a comment from Robbie and George. Quick.
The debate is not which one should we have at the expense of the other. The debate is which will do more. Yes. I think we have articulated that you need both, but ultimately it is would be the tail wagging the dog, so to speak, if we put AI first. Sell out.
And George, the captain here, come on, 10 seconds.
We would have a circular economy if